When I was 23, Justin Price was forced to marry me because of my pheromone disorder. What he didn't know was that this marriage, which he saw as a mere partnership, was the culmination of a wish I'd held for more than a decade. The day before our wedding, he threw an agreement down in front of me. In bold letters, it stated, "During the term of the marriage, neither party shall interfere in the other's private life." Eventually, I was finally ready to set him free, but watching his younger brother wait on me hand and foot, giving me everything I'd ever wanted, made his eyes turn red. He ripped the agreement to shreds. "Can I pursue you again? I'll wait as long as it takes for you to say yes. 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday, Matthew. Here's to springtime being a box office smash. Make a wish, Matthew. Make a wish." A crowd of people surrounded me, scrambling to light the candles on the cake. I made a silent wish, then opened my eyes and blew out the candles in one breath. Cheers erupted around me as everyone started helping to cut the cake and pass out plates. "What did you wish for?" someone asked softly, coming up beside me. I smiled. "It won't come true if I say it out loud. I'm guessing it has something to do with my brother, though." I looked up at Oscar Price. He had the same handsome eyes as Justin, but they held a warmth and a smile I'd never seen in his older brothers. The two of them looked alike, but their personalities were night and day. I paused for a moment before joking, "You guessed wrong. I wished for springtime to be a huge hit and for Oscar Price to become a leading man." "Oh yeah? I'll have to make sure to brag to my brother about that." I just smiled and shook my head, not saying anything more. He wouldn't care anyway, I thought. At 9:30 p.m., I dragged my exhausted body home. The apartment was pitch black. Justin wasn't back yet. I went to take a shower first. As the water ran, I noticed my hands and feet were trembling uncontrollably. I did a quick mental calculation. It had been half a month since my last temporary marking. After a moment's hesitation, I sent Justin a text. It's a birthday tradition to have noodles. Neither Justin nor I spent much time at home, so the fridge was spotless, with nothing to cook. I boiled 2 bowls of plain noodles in clear broth, not even an egg. One bowl was in front of me, the other across the table. After a full day of shooting action scenes, I was so tired I could barely sit up straight. I slumped over the table, scrolling on my phone. My last text had vanished into the void, unanswered. I didn't know if he hadn't seen it or just didn't want to reply. I mindlessly browsed my social media apps. Just as I was starting to doze off, my phone dinged. I jolted awake and checked my messages, only to feel a pang of disappointment when I saw it was from a friend. I tapped on the picture she sent. The background was a bar, where 2 people sat facing each other at a small table. One alpha, one omega. The alpha was Justin. The omega only had his back to the camera. "Matthew, is this your husband? I can't remember clearly, but it looks a lot like him," she sent in another message. Great. Now I was officially unhappy. I sighed and tossed my phone aside, not wanting to explain our bizarre marital situation to friends I wasn't even that close with. The gland on the back of my neck throbbed with a faint, sharp pain. But because I'd been filming a night scene until dawn the day before, I still managed to fall asleep right there at the table. I don't know how much time passed, but I was startled awake by a hand on my back. "Why aren't you sleeping in the bedroom?" Justin asked. I rubbed my tired eyes. "I didn't think you were coming back. Didn't you say your pheromones were acting up? Is it early this time? Maybe you should see a doctor." "It's not that early. It's about time," I said, lowering my head to expose the most vulnerable part of my neck. Without another word, Justin bent down and, as routinely and skillfully as ever, bit into my gland. His canines pierced my skin, and alpha pheromones slowly flowed into me, reacting with the chaotic mess inside my body. The temporary marking was over in a moment. Justin straightened up. I was trembling from the pain, slumped in my chair and covered in a cold sweat, but I could feel the pheromones in my body gradually calming down. "You made noodles?" I looked down at the 2 bowls on the table. "It was my birthday," I said, looking up at him. Justin was clearly taken aback. "Sorry, I was busy and forgot. Happy birthday. I'll get you a gift tomorrow, okay?" I pointed to the clock on the table. It was 3 in the morning. It's already over. You can get it for me today. Okay. It's not every day you cook. Let me try some. Justin sat down across from me and picked up his chopsticks. But the noodles were long congealed into a solid lump, impossible to pull apart. I took the bowl from him and dumped it into the garbage disposal. It's a rock. Don't eat it. An awkward silence filled the room. Are you throwing a tantrum? Justin asked. Because I forgot your birthday? Because you went to see your lover on my birthday. Justin raised an eyebrow at that. Are you having me followed? I didn't answer. Have you forgotten? He continued. We have an open marriage. We signed an agreement. Neither of us has any obligation of fidelity to the other, right? Justin was completely forced into marrying me. The Yi and Price families had been friends for generations, and Justin and I had a childhood engagement arranged for us. But this was the modern era. That engagement was treated like a joke, nobody took it seriously. Until I was 19 and diagnosed with pheromone dependency disorder. At first, I could manage a normal life with medication and synthetic pheromones. But gradually, even the drugs couldn't regulate the incompatible pheromones warring inside my body. My doctor said I needed to find a highly compatible alpha for a marking as soon as possible. Once the news got out, families looking to align with mine or those who were already close to us paraded their eligible alphas out for compatibility testing. But the highest match was only 68%. Then Mrs. Price rushed over to our house, waving a test report. As if destined by fate, Justin's compatibility with me was as high as 89%. High compatibility, a family we knew and trusted, it was almost the perfect solution. My dad was overjoyed. With tears in his eyes, he came into my bedroom and held my hand. My baby is saved. My father stood behind him, placing a hand on his shoulder. He was smiling, but his glasses fogged up. I smiled too, not just because I was going to live, but because I was going to marry Justin Price. To everyone else, this marriage was a strategic partnership, a deal driven by mutual interest. But only I knew it was also the fruit of a love that had spanned my entire youth. When I was 8, I went with my father to a party at the Price family's estate. The adults were clinking glasses and making toasts. No one noticed me slip upstairs. I followed the faint sound of a piano, and the closer I got, the clearer the beautiful, flowing music became. By the tall French windows, a boy in a black formal suit sat at a grand piano. Sunlight streamed through the gaps in the lush green trees outside, pouring all over him. I was mesmerized. When the music stopped, he turned his head, and I finally saw his impossibly perfect face. He walked over and knelt in front of me. Hey, little guy, who are you? I just stared at him without speaking. You're an Omega, right? I nodded. So cute. He smiled and gently pinched my cheek. I have a little brother about your age, but that kid's an alpha. He's a total terror. That day, he sat me on his lap and guided my hands over the black and white keys. I could no longer tell if the sound in my ears was the piano or my own heartbeat. Justin didn't want to get married. I sat in my room, painting, quietly listening to the adults discussing it outside. Apparently, Justin was in love with someone, an Omega from a middle-class family. Mrs. Price disapproved, and the Omega, who had a temper of his own, had dumped Justin and gone to study abroad. The Price family had been in turmoil over it for weeks. My dad came in. He looked at me, hesitating, as if he didn't know what to say. I smiled and showed him my painting. Is it good? It was a painting of a gleaming black piano, with sunlight piercing through the dust motes dancing in the air and landing on it. Dad nodded. It's beautiful. Does our little Matthew like black pianos? Dad can buy you another one. I shook my head. No, the one we have is good enough. I stood up to get more paint from the shelf, but the room started to sway. The world spun around me. I fainted. Just before I lost consciousness, I felt my father's strong arms lifting me from the floor, and my dad's tearful shouts echoed in my ears. Even in that moment, I still felt happy. When I woke up, Justin was by my bedside. We had only seen each other a handful of times over the years, but his face still had the same heart-stopping effect on me as it did when we were younger. He said to me, "Let's get married." Felt all wrong. Shouldn't that line be part of a proposal? Shouldn't there be a ring, flowers, a man on one knee? How could he say it as casually as what should we have for lunch? With an oxygen tube in my nose, I struggled to part my lips and whispered, "Thank you." This wasn't the time to say I do, because I knew Justin didn't want this. He was being cornered by his family, held hostage by my illness. The 89% compatible pheromones were incredibly effective. He would come and sit in my hospital room for half an hour every day, and my condition improved at an astonishing rate. After I was discharged, we quickly registered our marriage and held a wedding. Both sets of parents were thrilled. What they didn't know was that the day before we registered, Justin had given me an agreement. It was the first time I had ever seriously learned about an open marriage. He said, "Neither of us has to be faithful to the other. Aside from me marking you regularly and giving you pheromones, we'll just live our separate lives." I stared at the document, my eyes stinging. After a long time, I finally picked up the pen and signed my name. Have you forgotten? We have an open marriage. We signed an agreement. Neither of us has any obligation of fidelity to the other, right? The eyes in front of me were dark and deep, like a pool of stagnant, undisturbed water with no bottom in sight. I stared into them for a moment, then looked down and smiled. Right? Sorry, I overstepped. I turned and walked toward the bedroom. I'm going to bed. I lay on my side. A moment later, the other side of the bed dipped. Justin's low, pleasant voice spoke. "I'm sorry about tonight. I'll try to be more considerate of your feelings in the future." I didn't say anything. I just closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. The crew wrapped early today. Afterward, someone suggested going to a craft shop down the mountain to make silver jewelry. The idea was met with a chorus of approval. The director laughed. "So many people want to go, let's just all go together. We can shoot some behind-the-scenes footage for pre-release promotion." I felt a bit helpless. It was the one day we got off early, and I had been planning to go home and get some rest. "Matthew, you in?" The director called to me. I gave a wry smile. "Can I say no?" "Nope. You're the male lead," the director joked. "Come on, let's go." Despite my initial reluctance, once I was sitting in the shop, I was completely absorbed. Artistic talent, that's one thing I've never lacked. As I hammered the silver block, tiny flecks of silver flew off. I laughed. Wow, this is real money we're wasting here. It hurts to watch. Oscar, sitting across from me, started hammering away while imitating a classic comedy bit. 80, 80. The whole room burst into laughter. Near the end, the director wandered around with his camera, catching actors interacting. He pointed the camera at Oscar. "Let's see what our second male lead, Mr. Oscar Price, is making. Care to introduce it?" Oscar showed his creation to the camera. "A small pendant. Check out my clever design, the heart here, the diamond pattern here, and this part here. What do you think? Pretty amazing, right? So who is this beautiful pendant for, Mr. Price?" "For the male lead of our movie, of course, my one unattainable love, Mr. Matthew Shaw." The camera immediately swung to me. The director said, "Matthew, did you hear that?" I pointed at Oscar with a grin. "Director, he's giving away spoilers." "No, I'm not," Oscar protested, raising his hands. "Yes, you did. You said unattainable love. Spoiler alert, Oscar. We're docking your pay later," the director laughed. "Looks like our Matthew is making a ring. Come on, show everyone. I did a great job. I'm a true artisan. Wow, this ring could be mass-produced. It's a work of art. So who's the lucky recipient? Let Matthew reveal the secret for us. I'm giving it to my one true love." I drew out the words. Chris, my co-star, grinned smugly. "Thanks to the Academy, thanks to Matthew Shaw. Myself," I declared. Chris leaped to his feet. "Matthew, how dare you mess with me? Your fingers aren't that thick." The set erupted in laughter. I placed the ring in a small box and put it away. When we left, I was bundled up in a mask, hat, and sunglasses. Just as I reached the door, a black car flashed its hazards. The window rolled down, revealing Oscar's face. "Matthew, heading to my parents' place?" Tonight was the Price family dinner, which we were both expected to attend. Sure enough, Oscar's next words were, "Let's go together." I got into his car. "Is your brother going?" "Don't know. He probably has to," Oscar joked. "Why ask me? It's not like you two are close." I smiled. "We're not. My brother can be a real jerk sometimes," Oscar said. I looked at him, surprised. "The guy's blind," Oscar continued. "He's got this incredible, deeply devoted Omega at home, but he's losing his mind over some weed growing outside." The phrase "losing his mind" combined with Justin was so bizarre, it made him sound like a jilted lover in a melodrama. Couldn't help but giggle. "How do you know I'm so deeply devoted?" Oscar winked at me. "I'm a little psychic. I did a reading, and it says you're destined for a great trial of love. Once you get past it, your life will be smooth sailing." I couldn't stop laughing. It was hard to believe that two people with such similar DNA could turn out as different as Oscar and Justin. When we arrived at the Price estate, Mrs. Price scolded Oscar for not covering up with a mask and hat like I had. Oscar was exasperated. "Mom, Matthew's a huge star, that's why he does that. I'm a first-time actor, who's going to recognize me? Don't call him Matthew. He's your sister-in-law. Show some respect." Fine, whatever." Justin hadn't arrived yet. I sat off to the side, smiling, but the next moment, the attention turned to me. "Matthew, dear, has work been busy lately?" Her tone sent a chill down my spine. Sure enough, her next question was, "Have you considered taking some time off to have a baby? You've been married for 2 years, and there's still no sign of anything. Was your body damaged by your illness? Mom knows a very good doctor in that field. Would you like to see him?" Here we go again. The same old routine. Just as I was trying to figure out how to respond, a voice came from the doorway. "That won't be necessary." Justin walked over and stood beside me. "There's nothing wrong with Matthew. We're not having children. And as for the reason why, others might not know, but you do, don't you, Mom? Weren't you the one who demanded I get married in the first place?" My hand, hidden under the table, clenched into a fist. "Why are you so pathetic? That Noel, that classless Omega, you're already married. What's so special about him that you can't forget him?" "Noel," I repeated silently. What a sweet name. After all these years, it was the first time I'd ever heard his name. "Mom, why were you looking into him?" Justin." Oscar cut in suddenly, his voice low. "Matthew is still here." The hall fell silent. Several pairs of eyes turned to me. Acting as if I wasn't the subject of the conversation, I looked up and smiled at them. "Is it time for dinner?" The atmosphere during dinner was so tense I thought I'd get indigestion. Justin stepped out to take a call halfway through and didn't come back for a long time. Mrs. Price asked me to go check on him. I knew she was trying to push us together, but I really didn't want to go. What was the point? Sure enough, as I walked down the hall, I heard Justin's voice. It was completely different from the distant tone he usually used with me. It was so gentle, it took me back more than a decade to the first time my young heart had ever fluttered. "It's a family dinner, of course he's here. You know how my mom is," Justin said into his phone, his head down and his back to me. His voice was filled with the helpless indulgence of someone trying to soothe a difficult lover. "Are you mad? Mad again?" I didn't listen any further. I took a different route and went out to the backyard. A thick, indescribable emotion was caught in my chest. I felt nauseous, convinced that if I didn't get some fresh air, I would suffocate in that fortress of a house. I reached into my jacket pocket and felt something bulky. I pulled out the ring. In the dim light by the man-made lake, I examined it. The diamond-cut facets glinted with a cold, metallic light. I clenched it tightly in my hand, the edges digging painfully into my palm. Such a cheap little trinket. "Matthew, who did you really want to give this to?" I laughed at myself, tossing the ring in the air and catching it. Tossing and catching. I tossed it one more time. This time, I didn't reach out to catch it. The ring traced a graceful arc through the air before plummeting toward the lake. I knew that my unspeakable love would drown with this ring in the water, unknown to anyone. Suddenly, a hand shot out from beside me. Before the ring could hit the water, the hand snatched it out of the air. "Whoa, Matthew, this is real money we're talking about here." It hurts to watch. Oscar's smiling eyes appeared before me. The night wind gently rustled my bangs. I could see the soft halos of the streetlights reflected in Oscar's eyes. He held out his hand, fist down. I held out my palm. He opened his hand, but what fell into it wasn't the ring, but a pendant. It was the one he had made during the day, now strung on a delicate chain. Here you go, leading man. Looking at the little silver charm gleaming in my palm, I smiled. You're really giving it to me? What, you thought I was lying? I thought you were just playing for the camera. Oscar examined the ring. There are numbers inside. He read the string of digits aloud. Let me guess, this is the date you won the gold medal at the provincial youth piano competition. It was your 14th birthday, right? I froze, staring blankly at Oscar. I watched as his perpetually smiling eyes met mine. After a long moment, I finally spoke. How did you? Oscar raised his hand, then lowered it again. For some reason, I felt like he had been about to ruffle my hair. He pointed to his head and said, I told you I'm a little psychic. You thought I was bluffing, didn't you? When I was 8, I met Justin Price, who was 4 years older than me, at his family's party. That one glance by the grand piano set me on the path of learning to play. The provincial youth piano competition was held every 4 years, with the previous champion presenting the award to the new one. From the moment Justin won the gold medal, becoming the next champion became the guiding star I pursued for the next 4 years. For years, 1,400 days and nights, I sat at that piano, striking the keys over and over until my fingertips were raw and calloused. When I finally stood on the brightly lit stage, watching Justin in a black tuxedo gracefully walk toward me, I had one thought. I wish he would say happy birthday to me. Over the past few years, we had only seen each other a few times at public events, always chaperoned by our elders. We would exchange a brief greeting, a few polite words, and sometimes nothing at all. That made the happy birthday Justin would say to me privately at my birthday parties each year feel incredibly precious. Those 2 simple words were enough to keep me eagerly waiting year after year. Of course, all this turmoil was just in my own head. Justin knew nothing about it. According to family tradition, ages like 4 and 14 were considered unlucky, so those birthdays weren't celebrated. That meant Justin wouldn't be attending my birthday party with his parents. Would he still wish me a happy birthday? Would he even remember it was my birthday? I watched him stop in front of me. He was so close that, under the bright lights, I could count every one of his eyelashes. 4 years had passed, and I was standing where he once stood. And Justin, he had continued to move forward, his skill far beyond this level now. He was a prodigy. I extended my hand for a brief handshake. His hands were large, with long, slender fingers, the hands of a natural-born pianist. I felt the light calluses on his fingertips, and in the bright glare, I was transported back to our first meeting. On that sun-drenched afternoon, he had held my hand and led me to touch a piano for the very first time. The handshake was brief, over in an instant, but my heart was already racing out of control. He handed me the trophy and the bouquet. I watched his Adam's apple move as his calm, beautiful voice said, "Congratulations, Matthew." I smiled and said thank you, but waited in vain for more. It seemed that was all he had to say. I felt a pang of disappointment. As he was about to turn away, I couldn't stop myself. It's my birthday today. Justin was clearly taken aback. Sorry, I was busy and forgot. Happy birthday. I'll get you a gift tomorrow, okay? Sorry, I was busy and forgot. Happy birthday. I'll get you a gift tomorrow, okay? My birthday. Justin couldn't remember it 10 years ago, and he still couldn't remember it now. But Oscar, whom I'd only known for 2 years, remembered. That award ceremony had been incredibly meaningful to me, but in my version of the story, Justin was the protagonist. Oscar had never even been a shadow in the background. I was a little confused. I watched Oscar grin as he pocketed the ring. Leading man, you took my pendant, so you owe me a gift in return. I'll just take this ring as payment. I smiled and didn't object. If Justin didn't want it, it made no difference whether it was in the lake or anywhere else. I rode back with Justin that night. Halfway there, he handed me a gift bag with gold foil lettering. A birthday present. It's a little late, but I hope you like it. I took it and opened it. The moment I saw what was inside, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They really were brothers. A pendant lay on a bed of black velvet. A brilliant blue diamond, which I estimated to be over 3 carats, glowed mysteriously in its platinum setting. Compared to this, Oscar's simple silver pendant suddenly seemed shabby and cheap. But at least he had hammered it out himself, I thought. It wasn't a gift that felt more like compensation than a genuine blessing. I stared at the pendant for a long time, until Justin spoke. You don't like it? I looked up at him. It's beautiful. Thank you. The night was as dark as ink. Justin's black eyes met mine. You don't look very happy. I held his gaze in silence for a moment. His name is Noel? Justin's brow furrowed slightly, a flicker of alarm in his eyes. Was he that protective of him? Seeing Justin's reaction, I suddenly felt a pang of envy for this Omega I'd never met. He's getting married, isn't he? Justin clearly hated this topic. He gave a short, clipped yes. Is his an open marriage too? I asked. Justin turned away from me, his gaze shifting to the car window. What are you trying to say? Just like the first time I met him, Justin had always been a gentle and composed person. Both times I had seen his thorny side today were because of Noel. Sorry, I said with a helpless smile. Because of me, you couldn't marry the person you love. Justin was silent for 2 seconds before saying, don't overthink it. Okay. Noel got married. I heard the news from Mrs. Price. She came to visit the set. Oscar and I sat at a small table while she laid out dish after dish in front of us. She asked me, how's Justin been lately? Huh? I paused, then said, I don't think he's been home for a few days. That was true, but since Justin wasn't often home anyway, I hadn't thought much of it. Mrs. Price picked up her chopsticks and said, Matthew, don't you worry about him. That Noel is getting married today, so he's bound to be in a foul mood for a few days. Just let him be. I swear, I don't know if that boy's brain is broken. Mom, he's blind in his eyes and in his heart. And you too. If you don't make a name for yourself with this movie, you can get your butt back to the company. Wasting your days, not even finding a partner. Mom! Oscar, caught off guard by the sudden shift in focus, quickly begged for mercy. I was wrong. Let's eat. Matthew's been shooting fight scenes all day, he's starving. I silently poked at a piece of sweet and sour pork in my bowl. That night, as I headed home, Mrs. Price's words from earlier echoed in my mind. He's bound to be in a foul mood, but it's for the best that he's married. What alpha would tolerate their Omega messing around outside? Things will get better from now on. Is that true? Will things get better? They have to, right? I pushed open the door and noticed a pair of leather shoes by the entryway bench. I called out tentatively, Justin? No answer. Could he be asleep? With that thought, I walked further in, then suddenly saw the top of a fluffy head of hair peeking out from behind the sofa. I walked around and found Justin slumped on the floor behind the couch, his knees bent, his face buried in his hands. Justin? I got closer, crouching beside him, and was hit by the strong smell of alcohol. Have you been drinking? No response. I stood up. I'll go make you some honey water. Just as I turned, my wrist was grabbed. Justin looked up at me. The corners of his eyes were red, his hair a mess. My heart clenched. On the day of Noel's wedding, I saw yet another side of Justin, a broken one. Matthew, Noel's married, Justin said, looking at me. His voice was hoarse and wounded. My throat felt tight, but I couldn't get any words out. He's not waiting for me anymore. I looked into his beautiful eyes. How could a pair of eyes like that hold so much sorrow? I couldn't tell if it was tears or moonlight glistening in them. I reached out and touched the corner of his eye. It was dry, but why did my hand feel wet? My heart felt damp too. I met his gaze and my lips parted, whispering a few words. I'm sorry. That night, after I got a drunk Justin settled, I collapsed onto the bed, completely exhausted. The person beside me was quiet, not making a sound. I closed my eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. My heart ached in waves, and the image of Justin's devastated eyes kept replaying in my mind. I suddenly realized that we might never be okay. In a way, Justin and I were very similar. When I fell in love with someone, I didn't know how to cut my losses. Neither did he. He would probably love Noel for as long as I had loved him. That night, neither of us cried, but it felt as if we both had. When I woke up the next day, Justin was gone. I didn't know if he remembered what had happened the night before. I only knew that I didn't see him for several days after. He didn't bring it up, and I didn't ask. Life would probably just muddle on like this. Before I knew it, the filming for Springtime was nearing its end. All that was left were a few action scenes to reshoot, and then we would wrap. After filming, there would be a long break to recuperate. I sent Justin a picture of the scenery in Damascus that I'd seen on social media and asked if he had time to go on vacation next month. Maybe he would. After all, Noel was married, but we still had a long life to live together. I clung to that sliver of hope. As I was getting my makeup done in the dressing room, I felt a faint wave of dizziness. The feeling was all too familiar. I raised a hand to the back of my neck. The spot was tender to the touch, the gland already slightly swollen. How could this be? It had been less than half a month since my last marking. I rummaged through my backpack. As I feared, I couldn't find any medication. Ever since marrying Justin, my pheromones had stabilized, and I no longer carried my meds everywhere. "Matthew, why are you sweating so much?" the makeup artist asked. Oscar, who was getting his makeup done next to me, turned his head. "You look terrible. Are you not feeling well?" I shook my head. "It's nothing, probably just a little stuffy in here." "Ma'am, could you please make sure my makeup is set really well? If you're not feeling well, I can talk to the director and have them push your scenes back." "Don't force yourself," Oscar said. "It's fine. We can wrap today if I finish my scenes. If I don't shoot, the whole crew will have wasted their day for nothing," I said with a reassuring smile. "It's really no big deal." With that, I looked down and opened my chat with Justin. The message I'd sent earlier was still unanswered. The message above that was from my birthday night, asking if he was coming home and telling him my pheromones felt off. I hesitated for a second before adding a new message. "Justin, the last marking doesn't seem to be working. I'm going to the hospital tonight, but I can't leave the set right now. Can you come and give me a temporary mark?" No matter how many times I did it, asking someone for a marking like this still filled me with shame. Now, the already one-sided chat history looked even more like a monologue. I honestly thought I would be fine, but I hadn't expected the symptoms to hit so much faster and harder than ever before. After a few physically demanding action scenes, my vision started to black out intermittently, and my heart was pounding like a drum. While the crew was setting up the next shot, I slipped away to a less crowded area and leaned against a pillar, gasping for breath. I fought back the nausea rising in my throat and fumbled for my phone with a trembling hand, frantically pulling up my chat with Justin. Still no answer. Without thinking, I dialed his number. "Please, pick up," I prayed silently, holding the phone to my ear. "The number you have dialed has been switched off." "Sorry," the cold, mechanical voice began. The hand holding my phone went limp. I leaned my head back against the pillar and closed my eyes wearily. "How are you doing?" A voice spoke beside me. I opened my eyes, and Oscar's undisguised worry met my gaze. I forced a smile and shook my head. "I'm fine. Thank God for the makeup, or my true condition would have been obvious." But the concern in Oscar's eyes didn't fade. "Is it a pheromone thing?" he asked hesitantly, clearly aware it was a private matter. The crew didn't know about my condition, but Oscar did. "Probably," I said, hiding my trembling hands behind my back. "I'll call my brother," Oscar said, pulling out his phone. "Don't bother. His phone is off." I turned my head and saw Oscar's eyes, so much like his brother's, filled with a panic and helplessness I'd never seen in Justin. "It's the last scene. I'll go to the hospital right after," I said, trying to reassure him for some reason. "It's okay. I have experience with this. I'll be fine until tonight." That take was okay, but it would be better if Matthew's movements were a bit bigger. "Let's get one more for safety. How about it, Matthew?" The director called to me through his megaphone. Waves of heat rolled over me, yet I felt a bone-deep chill. Cold sweat had already soaked the lining of my costume. I clenched my jaw and told myself to just hold on a little longer. It was almost over. I gave the director's tent an okay sign. Okay, let's get ready. 3, 2, 1, action. The harness around my waist tightened, and I was instantly lifted into the air. I tried to ignore the discomfort, focusing all my energy on the sword in my hand. I used every last bit of strength to execute a flip in midair. The next second, I lunged with the sword as the wires rapidly lowered me. The moment the feeling of weightlessness hit, the world spun. My trembling hand could no longer grip the prop, and the heavy sword fell. It's over, I thought. My body went limp, and the wires immediately spun out of control. I was flung in a long arc through the air. The instant my back slammed into the roof eaves of the set, a metallic taste flooded my throat. The sounds around me faded away. In the last second before I lost consciousness, I thought I saw Oscar. He looked terrified, his expression twisted in horror as he ran toward me, shouting something. What was he shouting? I no longer had the strength to think. I finally, wearily, closed my eyes. I felt like I was in a long dream. In the dream, I was wearing a well-tailored suit, standing between my dad and father, my heart beating a little faster as I accepted birthday gifts from one guest after another. This went on for what felt like an eternity, until finally, the person I had been longing for appeared. Justin walked up to me, smiled faintly, handed me a gift and said politely, "Happy birthday, Matthew." Our parents were chatting, and guests milled around with their drinks. No one noticed that in this corner of the banquet hall, my breath had stopped. It took all my effort not to betray the chaos in my heart. I casually took the gift from the boy standing next to Justin and mumbled a thank you to feign composure. Year after year, it was always the same. On my 14th birthday, I stood on the brightly lit stage, my palms sweating, more nervous than I had been during the competition. My gaze drifted over the sea of faces in the audience and landed on a boy sitting in the middle of the second row. He had a smile on his face, his head slightly tilted up as he watched the stage. The moment our eyes met, I realized he was looking at me. His eyes looked a little like Justin's. That's what I thought. But my gaze didn't linger on him, because the next moment, thunderous applause erupted, and Justin gracefully walked onto the stage from the other side. "Sorry, I was busy and forgot. Happy birthday. I'll get you a gift tomorrow, okay?" Hearing those words, a wave of disappointment washed over me. I didn't let any of it show on my face, just smiled and said, "Okay." But in my heart, I was telling myself that if I had just not asked, I could have stayed happy for the rest of the day. When I got home, our housekeeper told me that some people had dropped off gifts and that she had put them in my room. I knew Justin's wouldn't be among them, so I just gave a half-hearted reply. "Is someone crying?" The sound of quiet, intermittent sobs reached me. The sound was so familiar. I tried to open my eyes to see, but I felt so sleepy. The sound continued. "Is that Dad?" I struggled, finally managing to pry my eyes open a tiny crack. All I could see was a stark white. My sluggish brain couldn't immediately process what had happened. Then I heard a soft gasp near my ear. Did Matthew just open his eyes? Is he awake? The room instantly filled with noise. Someone was calling for a doctor. Someone else was calling my name. A few faces appeared in front of me. My mind slowly recognized my dad and my father. "What happened?" I mouthed, but no sound came out. It was a while after I woke up that my memories came flooding back. I had 4 broken ribs, a dislocated spine, and various internal injuries from the impact. Everything hurt. Seeing me awake, my dad gripped my hand and sobbed uncontrollably. Watching his tears, I finally realized I just had a brush with death. I wanted to comfort him, but even the slightest sound sent waves of pain through my chest, so the words came out as a weak whisper. My father touched my forehead and told me to rest, that we could talk when I was feeling better. I stopped trying to speak, but after a moment, I couldn't help but ask, "Where's Justin?" I knew he had been here recently. I could smell his soothing pheromones in the room. They were strong, almost as if he'd released them intentionally. An awkward silence fell over the room. I turned to look at them and saw the hesitation and dark clouds in their eyes. So the truth was out. I had always hidden the true state of my marriage from them, not wanting them to worry. When the accident happened, they couldn't reach Justin at first. Later, Mrs. Price called Noel directly. Of course, Justin was with him. Noel and his husband were moving to the US. He had asked Justin to meet for a final farewell. He said it was their last date and that he wanted Justin's full attention. So Justin had cut off all contact, and in doing so had cut off my lifeline. The doctors had worked against the clock to save me, pumping me full of drugs while demanding of my family. They've been married this long and there's no permanent mark? My own father, his hands still trembling as he supported my dad whose legs had given out, asked with a frown, "No permanent mark?" When the news broke, Justin rushed to the hospital only to be met with a punch from my father that sent him stumbling against the wall. Mrs. Price instinctively took a step forward but was pulled back by Oscar, a sobering reminder that this was a debt her eldest son owed. Justin staggered, found his footing, and without wiping the blood from his mouth, looked up and asked, "Dad, how is Matthew?" My father's eyes were bloodshot, veins bulging on his forehead. "If anything happens to him, you and that Noel of yours will not get off easy." "I mean it." Justin froze. He slowly looked up at the lit sign above the operating room, as if a bomb had gone off, leaving him stunned and disoriented. My parents only had one son, and an Omega at that. Justin had seen how much they treasured me. It was no exaggeration to say I was the light of their lives. He didn't doubt for a second that my father's threat was real. But he didn't care about that anymore. Could something really happen to Matthew? How had a living, breathing person suddenly ended up in a life or death situation? He suddenly remembered a few nights ago, on that bitter evening, when Matthew had knelt before him, a drunken mess, and repeatedly whispered, "I'm sorry." Thinking of the pain in Matthew's eyes, Justin felt his own heart tear apart. He suddenly realized how cruel he had been. I lay in my hospital bed, listening as my dad haltingly and gently told me what had happened. After all these years, hearing stories like this no longer stirred much emotion in me. My dad's voice cracked with tears again. "I want to throw that bastard out this instant, but you need his pheromones, so I have to swallow my anger and let him come in for 2 hours every day." His childish words made me want to smile. The injuries were severe and I was weak. I was only awake for a short while before feeling sleepy again. My dad was still holding my hand, crying and rambling on, until my father stopped him. "That's enough. Matthew needs to rest. You should stop crying, too. Our boy is awake now, isn't he?" With an oxygen tube in my nose and a punctured lung, I couldn't say much, so I just managed a small smile. My father drew the curtains, and the moment the room darkened, I fell back asleep. For the first few days, I was only awake for short, irregular periods. I couldn't move or speak. I just lay there quietly, listening to my parents talk, and would drift back to sleep. Then one day, I woke up not to my dad's constant chatter, but to a rhythmic clicking sound. I turned my head slightly and saw Justin cutting my nails. He held my hand, his head bowed, meticulously trimming each nail with intense focus. I twitched my hand. Justin's head snapped up. The moment our eyes met, he looked stunned. We stared at each other for a moment, and then I noticed his eyes were red. Just a faint trace at the corners, almost invisible if you weren't looking closely. "Matthew, you're awake?" he whispered, his voice trembling slightly, as if he were afraid of startling me. "My mom said you'd woken up a few times, but you were never awake when I was here. I thought you didn't want to see me." He seemed to be losing his composure. I lay in bed, watching him quietly, feeling something scratch at my heart, both itchy and painful. I wanted to say something to comfort him, but talking would hurt my chest, and the vibration wasn't good for my injured organs. In the past, I might have been willing to endure the pain to console him, but now I didn't want to make that choice. He leaned closer, brushing my bangs away from my forehead and touching my skin. "The fever's gone." "That's good," he said. "You were running a fever for a few days." I looked at him, suddenly feeling a wave of sadness. I had waited years for this tenderness, But when it finally came, it was still born out of guilt. "I'm sorry, Matthew," Justin said. "I never thought the marking would wear off so quickly. It was my fault. I know your health is fragile. I should have kept my phone on at all times. I saw your messages. You want to go to Damascus? It's a great place. I'm clearing my work schedule now. As soon as you're a little better, we'll go. I think it's visa-free for us right now, right? We can just grab our passports and go." It was strange. I used to long for a chance to chat with him like this, but never got it. Now that I was sick, he was chattering away as if he were afraid I'd be bored. I lay there listening quietly, and soon, I fell into a deep sleep again. My body slowly recovered, and my spirits improved. The day they removed the drainage tube, Justin sat beside me, releasing calming pheromones. I was curled up like a shrimp on the hospital bed as the doctor pulled the long tube out from my spine. The intense pain made me bite my lip so hard I tasted blood. Suddenly, Justin reached out and covered the hand that was gripping the bed rail. He gently pried my fingers open, one by one, and enclosed them in his own hand. "You're gonna break a nail," he said. "If it hurts, just squeeze my hand." I was covered in a cold sweat from the pain, but my fingers suddenly forgot how to tense up. They remained limp in his hand as he gently stroked them. After the doctor left, I stayed in that position for a while to recover. Justin raised the head of the bed and helped me sit up. He used a damp towel to wipe the sweat from my forehead. "The doctor said you need a permanent mark to control your condition. Why didn't you ever mention that to me?" Justin asked, moving from my forehead to wipe my arms. "You can't handle a permanent marking right now, but once you're better, we'll—" "Justin." I grabbed the hand that was wiping me down. "Let's get a divorce." Justin froze. He looked up at me. We were so close, and we just stared at each other for a long time. Then I heard him let out a soft laugh. "What nonsense are you talking about?" I didn't smile. I just kept looking at him. After a moment, his smile vanished. "Matthew, I know this was my fault, and you've been through so much. It's normal to be angry, but please don't say things like that just to spite me. Okay?" "I'm not angry," I said. "Justin, I'm serious. I've been lying here for a while, unable to talk, but I've had a lot of time to think. I think I was too selfish before. How could I tie you down for my own sake? You haven't been happy since we got married, have you?" Before I could finish, Justin cut me off. "I told you in the car before, don't overthink it. This was my decision. Since I chose this path, I was prepared to be responsible for it. You don't need to feel burdened. I know. But besides that, I haven't been happy either. I want to change things. Not just for you, but for myself too." Justin fell silent. After a long moment, he looked at me. "I'll say it again. Don't joke about your health. I can manage with medication for a while. Who knows, maybe I'll meet the right person," I said with a joking smile. "It's not like I can't live without you after just 2 years of marriage. I managed with this illness for years before, right?" Justin clearly didn't find my words funny. His face was cold. "Besides, it's better to do it now before we have a permanent mark. Then I won't have to go through a mark removal, which is also really hard on the body," I added with a smile. Justin didn't speak, his eyes fixed on the white bedsheet. After a moment, he looked up. "If this is your decision, I'll respect it. I'm sorry I made you unhappy these past few years. It was my fault. Don't apologize," I stopped him. "You didn't do anything wrong. We were clear from the start. You didn't deceive me, and you had no obligation to develop feelings for me. But you saved my life at the cost of your own happiness. So it should be me thanking you." Hearing this, Justin managed a smile, though it was strained. "Okay. If you ever need anything in the future, you can still contact me. Don't try to be strong on your own." "I will." I watched Justin stand up and walk away. Maybe it was just my imagination, but I thought I saw a hint of panic in his retreating figure. As he pushed the door open, a familiar voice came from the other side. "Justin, leaving so soon?" Justin didn't answer, just walked quickly past him. Listening to the sounds at the door, I sat on the bed and bit my lip, a bitter taste in my mouth. Oscar walked in, holding a bouquet of fragrant lilies. He came to my bedside. "For the brave Matthew. The flowers are beautiful. Thank you, I smiled. But that's a strange way to describe me. I was watching from outside when they removed your tube, Oscar said. When they pulled that long thing out, it scared the hell out of me. But you didn't make a single sound. If that's not brave, what is? I was speechless. Oh, when did you get here? Why didn't you come in? Didn't have a visitor's pass, Oscar said innocently. Matthew, I've been coming every day. Your dad wouldn't let me in, so I just stood at the door to see if you were sleeping well, if you'd gained any weight. It's a sad story. I was surprised. Oscar had been coming every day, and I had no idea. The thought of him being turned away at the door and peering in pitifully made me chuckle. I'm sorry you had to go through that. They're just worried about me. Please try to understand. I'll talk to them. I get it, of course I do. Your father was watching from outside too, you know. He was crying the whole time. The things parents do for their children, Oscar said. But my brother really pissed him off this time. Why else would I get caught in the crossfire? Matthew, don't you dare forgive my brother easily. You need to teach him a lesson this time. Make him your personal servant. I was at a loss for words. The room fell silent for a moment before Oscar asked tentatively, What's wrong? Did you two have a fight? I was wondering why my brother was so quick to leave today. Usually, your dad has to chase him out. Your brother and I are getting a divorce. A flash of anger crossed Oscar's face. Is my brother out of his mind? How could he do something like this? I was the one who asked for it. I'm the one who wants the divorce. Oscar was stunned. Matthew, you... I smiled. Better to rip the band-aid off quickly. Didn't someone once tell me I was destined for a great trial of love, and that once I got past it, my life would be smooth sailing? I want to see if your psychic powers are real. But your illness... Don't worry, I said. I know what I'm doing. Justin and I got divorced. Aside from worrying about my health, my parents didn't say much. They always supported me unconditionally. So, the day after I was discharged from the hospital, we went to finalize the divorce. The heavy weight of emotion I had carried for over a decade was lifted so easily. Walking out of City Hall, my heart felt full of a complex, bittersweet feeling. But in a small, hidden corner of it, there was also a sense of relief. Justin walked silently beside me. Just as I was about to say goodbye, he spoke. Let me drive you home. It's too hot out and you're still recovering. His gentle, calm voice was like a clear spring flowing into my ears. My nose suddenly stung, and I almost burst into tears. Thank God for my dark mask and hat, which buried all my emotions deep inside, preventing me from losing it at the last second. Thanks, but my driver is already waiting downstairs, I said, pointing to the black SUV parked up ahead. I saw Justin smile too, a self-deprecating curve of his lips as he looked down. All right then, he said, looking up at my eyes hidden under the wide brim of my hat. Matthew, I guess we can call this an amicable split? Of course, I said. I added it was very civil. Very good. Good. Then we can still be friends, Justin said. If you ever need anything, you have to call me. Don't be stubborn. He'd said that before. Okay. I wish you a happy life, success in your work, and that you find the right person, I said with a smile. Justin stared at me for a few seconds, then managed a smile of his own. You too. I got to keep the downtown apartment since I was the one who lived there most of the time. The lingering scent of Justin's pheromones still hung in the air, slowly fading with each passing day. With no work scheduled, I had a rare stretch of free time, which I spent wandering aimlessly around the apartment. It was strange. I used to feel like Justin was barely ever here, but now his shadow was everywhere. He worked at that desk. He gave me a temporary mark right there. He held my hand in that spot and told me Noel didn't want him anymore. As his pheromones faded, so did my composure. I grew more and more anxious. I knew it was because the temporary mark on my neck was disappearing. The withdrawal was painful for any marked omega, let alone for me. So I started taking the same medication I had taken 2 years ago. Out of sight, out of mind. I gathered all of Justin's things. He didn't have much at all fit into a single cardboard box. I hadn't taken the medication in so long that the side effects seemed much harder to bear than before. One night, with a splitting headache, I looked up whether it was safe to drink with the medication. After finding no warnings, I opened a bottle of aged whiskey from the liquor cabinet. It had been a wedding gift from my dad. I once thought it held some sentimental value and would be treasured forever. But now that the thing it commemorated was gone, I figured it could serve as an anesthetic. At least it would be put to good use. At first, I just poured a little into a crystal glass, intending to sip it slowly. But when I discovered it actually seemed to be easing my headache, things quickly got out of hand. I don't know if it was because the whiskey was too strong or because my metabolism had slowed after the accident, but I got drunk much faster than usual. A clear liquid dripped onto the marble tabletop. I stared at it, then leaned in closer to smell it. It wasn't alcohol. Where did it come from? I looked up at the ceiling, checking for a leak from the apartment above. After a long search, I finally realized it was coming from my own eyes. A sudden wave of sadness washed over me. I grabbed the half-empty bottle of whiskey and walked out the door. On that early summer night, I stood by the river, the sound of flowing water in my ears. I suddenly realized I didn't know how to get back. There wasn't a soul in sight, only the chirping of summer insects and the dim glow of streetlights. After crouching by the deserted riverbank for a while, I suddenly remembered the words, "If you ever need anything, you can call me." The phone rang twice before it was picked up. "Matthew? Justin, I'm lost." "What?" The voice on the other end sounded shocked. I said, "I'm lost." I took a deep breath and shouted into the phone, "Wait, have you been drinking?" "Just a little." "I'm not drunk," I said, holding up one finger. "Is there anyone with you?" "No." "Send me your location." "Do you remember how?" Of course I did. I wasn't an idiot. "Okay, stay right where you are. I'll be there soon. Don't you dare move. Also, this is Oscar." Hearing that, I looked down at my phone. The call screen read Oscar P. When Oscar arrived, I was squatting on the riverbank, plucking leaves off a willow tree. "Oh, for crying out loud," Oscar said, striding over to me. "What are you doing up there?" He reached out and took my arm. Get down. Slowly. With your injuries, you shouldn't be climbing around. You'll crack a rib again." I held onto his hand and carefully climbed down from the embankment. The moment my feet touched the ground, Oscar bundled me up in a mask and hat. MMPH. I instinctively tried to pull the mask off, but Oscar grabbed my hand. "Matthew, you've got some nerve, running around out here like this. You want to be on the front page of the tabloids tomorrow." Oscar reached out and straightened the mask on my face. He leaned in and sniffed. "How much did you drink?" I lifted the bottle and shook it at him. Oscar glanced at the bottle, now less than half full, and winced. "Don't tell me you drank all of that by yourself. Want some?" I tilted my chin up proudly. "This is the good stuff. The best." I held the bottle to his lips. The sharp smell of alcohol hit him, and Oscar frowned. "Whoa, that's strong. Leo Shaw, you are unbelievable." Being called by my full name like that sent a shiver down my spine. "What? Have you forgotten you're a patient? Can't you have a little self-awareness? Are you drinking or not?" I pushed the bottle forward again, the rim touching his lips. Oscar looked exasperated. He took the bottle from me. "Thank you." "No, I'm not drinking. I have to be your driver." Then he added, "And I'm confiscating this." "Why?" Oscar laughed in disbelief. "What do you mean, why?" A fire of anger ignited in me. The headache, which had been dulled by the alcohol, seemed to be roaring back to life. "Why does everyone bully me?" I stood there, the summer breeze rustling my hair, glaring at Oscar. He seemed stunned for a moment. Then, as if all the air had gone out of him, he suddenly reached up and ruffled my hair. "'Kay, it's not your fault. Let's just get you home." Now it was my turn to be stunned. Even in my hazy state, I could tell that gesture was a little too intimate. As far as I could remember, no one but my parents had ever done that to me. "What are you two doing?" A cold, low voice cut in. I jumped and turned to see the person who had been haunting my thoughts for the past few days standing right behind Oscar. "What are you two doing?" Justin's expression was dark and unreadable. I looked at him, then back at Oscar. Oscar didn't move or answer, but his brow furrowed in a flicker of annoyance. "It's your brother?" I whispered, looking at him. "What?" I pointed at Justin, then at him. Big brother, little brother. Oscar laughed, and the hand in my hair tousled it more firmly. Then who are you? The sidekick? He dropped his hand and turned to face Justin. Matthew's drunk. I'm here to pick him up. Why you? Justin looked confused. Oscar let out a soft, derisive snort. Who else? You? Justin. Have you forgotten what happened the last time Matthew asked you for help? Matthew? I'm just now realizing that you haven't properly called him sister-in-law once in the past 2 years. You never treated him like your husband, so why should I treat him like my brother-in-law? Justin stared coldly at Oscar. So you don't see him as your brother-in-law. What does that mean? What does it mean? Don't you know perfectly well? Oscar shot back, not backing down. Besides, you're divorced now. What I mean is none of your business, is it? Ha! Justin seemed genuinely furious, a cold rage swirling in his eyes. He let out a short, sharp laugh. Good. Just great, Oscar. You've really grown up. You're a real great little brother. I stood behind Oscar, my brain completely stalled as they traded barbs. After a moment, I finally managed to whisper, my head hurts. Both of them turned to look at me. What's wrong? Justin took a step forward to grab me, but Oscar blocked him. Letting a drunk person stand by the river in the wind, is this how you take care of someone? Justin's tone was icy. If you hadn't shown up, I'd almost have him home by now. And don't forget, he said he wasn't happy when he was with you. With that, Oscar took my arm and started walking me to the car. As we passed Justin, I glanced at him. He was looking at me too. He didn't move, just watched as Oscar led me away, step by step. I thought I saw a flicker of hurt in his eyes, like an abandoned puppy, looking a little pitiful. It was a look he rarely wore. I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my heart. After more than a decade, loving him had become a habit. Even dead drunk, my body still reacted before my brain. It wasn't until Oscar leaned over and clicked my seatbelt into place that I snapped out of it. Oscar was still in the same position, his face very close to mine. His breath tickled my ear as he spoke. Matthew, if you keep looking at him, I'm going to be sad. I looked into his eyes, so close to mine, and suddenly felt my cheeks flush. I'd always thought his eyes were almost identical to Justin's. But this close, I suddenly saw the difference. The outer corners of Oscar's eyes curved up slightly, which made his smile brighter and gave him a roguish look when he wasn't smiling, as if he were hiding some mischief. But right now, he was just staring at me, not smiling, not angry. I suddenly thought that his were very soulful eyes, full of unspoken words of love. Okay, I managed to say, my voice suddenly losing its strength. Oscar leaned back into the driver's seat, satisfied, and stepped on the gas. The car moved smoothly, rocking me gently. I started to doze off in the passenger seat. My head felt like an uncontrollable sandbag, nodding lower and lower until my body suddenly slumped to the side. I woke with a start to find Oscar, one hand on the steering wheel, had quickly reached over and caught my head. Otherwise, I would have slammed right into the window. I blinked at him, still dazed. Don't sleep here, you'll catch a cold, he said softly, his voice gentle and caressing. I nodded, forcing myself to stay awake. Soon, the car came to a smooth stop. I looked out the window, confused. This wasn't my place. Oscar unbuckled his seatbelt. Wait here a second. He got out and walked into a pharmacy on the side of the road. A moment later, he came back out with a small bag. He got back in the car but didn't start it. He took a spray bottle out of the bag and grabbed my arm. Matthew, you're a real philanthropist, feeding the mosquitoes by the river in the middle of summer. I finally noticed my arms were covered in more than a dozen mosquito bites. My skin was fair, so the red welts, mixed with the scratch marks I'd made without realizing, looked particularly alarming. The spray was cool and soothing on my skin, immediately relieving the itch. I held out my arm and let him spray it, a strange feeling bubbling up inside me. Other one, Oscar said, holding out his hand. I obediently offered my other arm. What were you doing at the river so late at night, anyway? I heard him ask, but I didn't answer. Oscar kept his head down, seemingly amused. What am I doing talking to a drunk person? Looking for a ring? What? Oscar asked distractedly, focused on the spray bottle. I was looking for the ring I was going to give to Justin. I think I threw it in the water. Oscar's hand stopped. He looked up at me. For some reason, his stare made me feel a little guilty. Matthew, you're really ruthless. You know I can get my feelings hurt too, right? Oscar said through gritted teeth. I looked at him, not quite understanding what he was talking about, but he definitely didn't look happy. He put the cap back on the spray bottle, turned, buckled his seatbelt, and started the car. Stop looking. It didn't fall in the water, he said. Huh? Then where is it? Oscar didn't answer. Where is it? I pressed. In my heart. Fell into my heart. Okay? Oscar said, his face a picture of exasperation. Then take it out so I can see. I'm really no match for you, Oscar said, reaching into the collar of his suit jacket and pulling out a simple silver ring. It really was in your heart, I exclaimed in surprise. Oscar laughed. What, you thought I was lying? You silly goose. I reached for it, but Oscar quickly pulled his hand back. Nope, not for you. Why? That's my ring. Who says it's yours? You gave it to me, so no take-backs. And you're not getting it back to give to Justin. Who said I gave it to you? And who said I was going to give it to Justin? I retorted. Oscar kept his eyes on the road and laughed softly. Matthew, if my hands weren't busy right now, I'd take a picture of you like this and show it to you when you wake up tomorrow. Bring it on. I'm scared of you, okay? I surrender, Oscar said quickly. The moment I entered the bedroom, I face planted onto the bed. Oscar pulled off my shoes and tossed them on the floor. Then his footsteps pattered out of the room. A moment later, they pattered back in. Wake up, Matthew. You can sleep in a minute, Oscar said, gently tapping my cheek with the back of his hand. I blearily opened my eyes a crack and saw him standing by the bed, holding a glass. Drink this hangover remedy before you sleep, or your head will hurt even more tomorrow. It won't work. Yes, it will. Of course it will. Come on. Oscar's voice was soft, like he was coaxing a child. When I didn't move, he reached out and lifted my head slightly. Something was brought to my lips. I slowly realized it was a straw. I closed my mouth around it and felt a sweet liquid flow in. I vaguely wondered where he'd gotten a straw. Did I even own any? Slowly, no rush. After a moment, Oscar took the glass away and brushed the hair from my forehead. There. Now your head won't hurt tomorrow. I felt a surge of irritation. Why was it so hard to talk to this person? It won't work, I repeated firmly. Why not? My head hurts not because of the alcohol, I suddenly found it hard to say, and swallowed the words. Oscar's fingers played with my hair for a long time before he hesitantly moved down and gently pinched my cheek, then snatched his hand back as if he'd done something wrong. It's what? He pressed. It's because I don't have any pheromones, I whispered, my voice getting quieter and quieter. The room fell silent. I opened my eyes, confused, and was met with a storm of complex emotions in Oscar's eyes. I tried to decipher them, but my alcohol-addled brain couldn't process something so complicated. Why didn't you go to Justin? Oscar's voice was a little hoarse. He wouldn't have refused. I don't want Justin anymore, I said, feeling a wave of self-pity. He likes someone else and he hates me. Silly, Oscar said. Don't you know you're the main character? You're the most important one to him. The headache grew more intense, sending sharp, stabbing pains through the back of my neck. I didn't have time to ponder Oscar's words. I just frowned, focusing on fighting the discomfort. After a long time, a sweet, herbal scent seemed to fill the room. It was familiar, yet slightly different from the scent I remembered. I slowly realized it was probably Oscar's pheromones. Go to sleep. The pain will go away when you're asleep, Oscar coaxed softly. Tell me a story. A story? Matthew, you've really stumped me with that one. I closed my eyes. The room was perfectly quiet. Just when I thought he wasn't going to, a soft, calm voice filled the silence. Once upon a time, there was a group of little mosquitoes. They loved to play by the river because there were lots of tall, lush weeds where they could play hide and seek, slide down blades of grass, and jump on leafy trampolines. But the river had one drawback. Not many people came by, so they couldn't get enough to eat. They had to fly far away every day to find food. Then one day, a little mosquito came buzzing back, shouting, "Quick, everyone! A new all-you-can-eat buffet just opened by the river. It's fresh and delicious." So all the little mosquitoes scrambled to get there. They ate until their bellies were round and full, and they burped contentedly, saying, "This place has to stay open forever." Just then, a voice came from above. "It won't. This place is closing tomorrow." The little mosquitoes buzzed anxiously, asking, "Why? Why? Do you know why?" There was no answer. "Matthew?" Oscar's lips curved into a smile as he whispered the end of the story. Just then, Matthew shouted, "Because that's not a buffet. It's my arm." It was already noon when I opened my eyes. The room was quiet. I was surprised to find that my head didn't hurt, and the general feeling of discomfort had lessened considerably. Did that whiskey have some kind of magical healing power? I threw back the covers and got out of bed, then noticed the sticky note on the nightstand. "Bought some bread, it's in the fridge. Remember to heat it up in the toaster oven before you eat." I stared at the note for a long time as fragmented memories of last night flooded my mind. My toes started to curl in embarrassment. I slapped my forehead in frustration. What was I thinking? Getting drunk and making a scene outside? And calling someone to witness it? "Matthew, your reputation is ruined." But amidst the embarrassment, I had to admit I was lucky. At least I had called the wrong number. If I had actually called Justin, I couldn't imagine how the whole thing would have devolved into a cringy soap opera of love isn't something you can just throw away and then try to win back with your sincerity. How could I ever show my face again? I checked my phone. There were no trending topics like a list star seen drunk late at night, suspected of being heartbroken. I let out a huge sigh of relief. I guess wandering the streets at midnight with a half-empty bottle of whiskey makes one look less like a famous actor and more like a creep to be avoided. Just then, a message popped up on my phone. "Oscar P., you up?" Remembering my behavior last night, my face flushed. I replied, "I'm up." The moment I sent the message, my phone rang. As soon as I picked up, Oscar's teasing voice came through the line. "Matthew." "Ahem, Oscar, thanks for last night." "Hey, how come you're not calling me by my special nickname anymore?" I could feel a headache coming on. "Please, just forget it." I heard Oscar chuckle on the other end. For some reason, the sound made my heart flutter. All right, if Matthew says forget it, then it's forgotten. But I'm curious what you do remember. Just that I got drunk, accidentally called your number, and then you came over. After that, it's all a bit blurry. "Hey, was your brother there?" I feel like I remember something, but I don't know if I was dreaming. There was a brief silence on the other end. Then I heard Oscar say softly, "It's better that you don't remember." "What?" "Nothing. My brother did show up yesterday, but in the end, you chose to get in my car. He's probably at home, heartbroken." I laughed. "He would never be. You didn't just call to chat, did you?" "Can't I? Do you have time in your schedule for me, Matthew?" "I do. I'm free at the moment." "Oh? Free? In what sense?" "Work." "Haha. Okay. I'll stop teasing you. I was just calling to remind you that I left the medicine on your nightstand. You got bitten a lot yesterday, and it looked like you were having a reaction. Make sure you spray it a few more times." I was surprised. I looked up and, sure enough, saw the medicine bottle on the nightstand. A strange warmth spread through me. After I hung up, I saw a missed call notification. It was from Justin. Those two brothers really were on the same wavelength, calling at almost the same time. I texted him back. "What's up?" He replied quickly. "Were you just on the phone?" "Yeah, with Oscar." After I sent that, he didn't reply for a long time. Just as I was about to put my phone down, it buzzed again. "How are you feeling? Does your head still hurt?" "Huh? Did I tell him my head hurt last night?" I hesitated for a moment before replying. "I'm fine now. Thanks for asking." Another long silence. He replied, "Good." A moment later, another message came. "Next time you're in trouble, you can call me too." I stared at the message, and for some reason, Oscar's words from earlier popped into my head. "You chose to get in my car, he's probably at home, heartbroken." The thought was absurd. No way, I told myself. He's just being polite. Despite the accident at the end, it didn't affect the post-production of Springtime. The movie soon entered its pre-release promotional phase, and social media was flooded with trailers and highlight clips. The wrap party, which had been postponed due to my health, was finally back on the schedule. It wasn't just the cast and crew attending, there were also industry executives and big shots from entertainment companies. It was clearly more than just a simple dinner. But of course, when you're in a hurry, things are bound to go wrong. Just as I was about to leave, a wave of intense dizziness hit me. I had to lean against the wall for a moment to steady myself before running to the bathroom to throw up. The gland that had been behaving itself since that drunken night was acting up again. After taking my medication and getting myself together, by the time I rushed to the venue, everyone had already arrived. I entered the private room, apologizing with a smile. Thankfully, the senior figures there were all very gracious. After shaking hands with everyone, I sat down in the empty seat that had been saved for me. The seating at these events was always strategic. The other male lead was on my left, and on my right was Oscar. "Matthew, you're late. You have to be punished," said a smiling CEO from across the table. The details of my accident had been kept under wraps, so apart from those who were there, almost no one knew. This CEO probably didn't know, which is why he was asking me to drink. The moment he said it, the director and a few other cast members who knew what had happened looked uneasy. "Of course," I said with a smile. A penalty for being late was standard. I reached for a glass of wine on the table, but before I could pick it up, a hand pressed down on my wrist. I turned my head to see Oscar already on his feet, holding a glass. "Mr. Smith, you may not know this, but Matthew has been dealing with gastritis lately and can't drink. I'll drink for him tonight. I hope you don't mind my lower status." With that, he tipped his head back and down the glass. Mr. Smith laughed heartily and pointed at Oscar. "You rascal, trying to be the hero? If Matthew was supposed to drink one, you have to drink 3. Deal." Oscar started drinking. The room was a cacophony of noise. No one noticed that Oscar's hand was still resting on my wrist. I looked down at his hand, well-defined knuckles, long, strong fingers. It was a beautiful hand. It rested lightly on my wrist, but the spot where our skin touched felt like it was getting hotter and hotter, almost enough to burn. After downing 3 glasses, Oscar sat back down and gave me a squinty-eyed smile. I tried to pull my hand away. He seemed to finally notice and removed it. "Matthew, you owe me one. Who asked you to drink?" "Hiss. How can such a warm mouth say such cold words? You'll hurt my feelings, you know." Oscar winced as if in pain, but the smile in his eyes was undeniable. He didn't look hurt at all. "You'll hurt my feelings." The words triggered a flash of blurry, fragmented images in my mind. The dim lights by the river, the cold mosquito repellent, the soulful eyes reflecting a sliver of moonlight, but when I tried to grasp the memories, they slipped away. "Oh, come on, Matthew. Were you really going to drink? Please, I'm begging you, stop torturing your body." I didn't say anything, just looked down at my plate, a strange, tingling sensation scratching at my heart. Oscar was drunk. In fact, almost everyone at the table was tipsy, but Oscar was the drunkest of all, since he had to drink my share as well. As we were leaving, the director called out to me, "Matthew, can you make sure Oscar gets home, all right? Keep an eye on him so he doesn't fall." I nodded, but Oscar turned to the director and slurred, "No, Matthew, he's got steel pins in his spine. He can't support me. I'll walk myself." The director, his own face flushed, said, "Oh, right. Can you manage, Matthew?" It's fine. It's not that serious. We're leaving, director. You be careful on your way," I said, and without waiting for an answer, I grabbed Oscar's arm and pulled him out. Once in the hallway, Oscar pulled his arm free. "No, I can't put weight on you." He tried to walk on his own, but after 2 steps, he stumbled and fell against the wall. I rushed to help him up. Both Price brothers were tall, and supporting a drunk one who refused to cooperate was exhausting. After wrestling with him for a moment, I snapped, "Oscar." "Huh?" My shout seemed to sober him up instantly. "You're making me tired." "Huh? Matthew, are you not feeling well?" Oscar's face was etched with worry. I looked into his familiar, helpless eyes, and the image slowly merged with the one that had flashed in my mind at the dinner table. Seeing him like that, the lecture I had been about to give him died on my lips. If you just behave, I won't be tired. This time, Oscar was obedient. He quietly let me lead him to the car. After I told the driver to go to the Price family estate, the driver raised the partition between us and the front seats. I let out a sigh and leaned back against the seat, rubbing my shoulders. Matthew, are you okay? Without the alcohol-fueled bravado, Oscar seemed almost sweet. I turned to look at him. He had leaned closer, staring at me intently, as if desperate for an answer. I'm fine, I said with a smile. But your gland is swollen, he said, pointing to the back of my neck, his voice full of unconcealed worry. I looked at him and said nothing. After a moment, a sweet, cool herbal scent began to fill the car. Smelling it again, I was finally sure that the fuzzy image in my mind wasn't a dream. Oscar really had given me some of his pheromones that night I was drunk. His pheromones were very similar to Justin's, just with an added, refreshing coolness. Oscar was still watching my expression. After a long silence, I spoke. Are you trying to soothe me? My neutral expression must have given him the wrong impression. He looked disappointed. Is it not working? I wish I were my brother. Then I could soothe you. The cramped car, the sound of our breathing, the soulful eyes so close to mine. Outside the window, the moonlight danced. The scene felt familiar. I finally remembered that drunken night when Oscar had said, his voice full of restraint, Matthew, if you keep looking at him, I'm going to be sad. The hidden emotion that had been veiled in mystery was finally being revealed. My breath hitched. Why do you want to soothe me? Was it because of the movie? The shoot for Springtime had been long, and it was common for actors to confuse their on-screen feelings with real life. Because the sidekick is the real hero. My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't expected that answer. Took me a moment to process it. When I finally spoke, my voice was hoarse. You're the sidekick. Your whole family are sidekicks. When we arrived at the Price estate, the guard recognized me and opened the gate. I stood outside, planning to wait for someone to come out and take Oscar so I could leave. A moment later, Mrs. Price came out with Justin right behind her. From the moment he appeared, his gaze seemed to be fixed on me. I deliberately looked away, focusing on Mrs. Price, trying to avoid his eyes. Matthew, dear, Mrs. Price said first, taking my hand and looking me up and down. Mrs. Price, I said. The title made her pause. Then she gave an awkward smile. Regardless of the marriage, Mrs. Price had been good to me, and I didn't want to make things uncomfortable for her. I quickly asked, how have you been, Mrs. Price? Good, good. Well, Oscar's drunk, so I brought him home. I supported Oscar and guided him toward his mother. Mom? Oscar mumbled. Oh, dear. How did you get so drunk? Mrs. Price hurried to take him. Matthew, it's so late. Why don't you just stay here tonight? Your room is just as you left it. Justin, who had been standing by silently, finally spoke. Yes, Matthew. Don't go through the trouble of leaving tonight. Just rest here. Treat it like your own home, Mrs. Price added. That's okay, my driver is waiting. I should get going, I said, waving goodbye. Suddenly, Oscar started to struggle against his mother's hold. Huh? Why are we here? I'm not sleeping at home tonight. I have something in the morning. He reached out and grabbed my wrist. Matthew, you take me to the city. Before I could react, Justin had already yanked Oscar's hand away. His voice was icy. No need. I'll take you. No, I want Matthew to take me. That's right, Oscar, let your brother take you. Don't bother Matthew, Mrs. Price said. Oscar shoved Justin away. I said I don't need you. Oscar. Justin's voice was sharp. Seeing things were about to escalate, I quickly stepped in and took Oscar's arm. It's okay, I'll take him. It's on my way. You don't have to, Matthew, Justin stressed my name. I looked at him. His brow was furrowed under the moonlight, his eyes filled with a complex emotion. I felt like he had something to say, but after a long pause, his Adam's apple bobbed several times. Finally, with a sigh, he said weakly, I'll take him. No. It was late. and I had no idea what drama was unfolding between these two brothers, nor did I want to be caught in the middle of it. So I quickly pulled Oscar toward the car. "It's really fine, it's on my way. If he wants me to take him, I'll take him." I turned and walked toward the car, step by step. I could feel the weight of his gaze on my back, like a physical presence. This scene also felt familiar. Had it happened before? I thought about it for a long time but couldn't come up with an answer. After struggling to get Oscar into his bedroom, I was covered in a thin layer of sweat. I pulled the blanket over him and was about to leave. As I turned, my eyes unintentionally glanced at the photos on his nightstand and stopped dead. Next to a few picture frames sat a goofy-looking stuffed pig, its head tilted to one side. My heart started to race. I slowly walked over and picked it up. After more than a decade, it was old and yellowed, but there was no mistaking it. This was the comfort toy that had been with me since I was a baby. I had to hug it to sleep every night, until I was 8, when I took it with me to the Price family's party, the very night that kicked off my long, drawn-out obsession with Justin. When I got into bed that night, I realized my constant companion was gone. It had been so long that many of the details were fuzzy, but I remembered being quite upset for a while. The whole house had been in an uproar over it. So it had been lost at the Price's estate all along. I stroked the toy and turned it over. To my surprise, there was a name tag stuck to the pig's back. On it, in strong, sharp handwriting, were the words Matthew Shaw. I stared at the name for a moment, then put the pig back and picked up the frame next to it. I was suddenly looking at my 14-year-old self, dressed in a performance outfit, my lips pressed into a thin line as I stood on a stage. Next to me stood another alpha boy. His face was still boyish, but the sharp lines of his jaw were already beginning to form, hinting at the handsome man he would become. Set in that face was a pair of familiar eyes, not looking at the camera, but sneaking a glance at me. That face slowly merged with the face of the boy from my dream, the one sitting in the audience. Boom! My mind exploded. No wonder he looked like Justin. He was Justin's brother. On the back of the frame, a note was written. Provincial Youth Piano Competition winner's photo, Matthew's birthday. Who was the second-place winner in that competition? At the time, I was so focused on winning first place so Justin would give me the award that I never paid attention to anything else. Now, it seemed I might have missed something important. I went back to my family's home. My parents were already asleep. I tiptoed down to the basement. It was filled with miscellaneous items, but our housekeeper had organized everything neatly. It didn't take long for me to find the gifts from my 14th birthday. Most of them were still unopened, their elaborate gift boxes collecting dust in this dark, forgotten room. I pulled them out and started going through them one by one. Finally, near the bottom of the pile, I found a gift with the name Oscar Price on it. I went back and looked for gifts from my 13th, 12th, 11th birthdays. As I expected, he hadn't missed a single one. The scene from my dream during the coma suddenly became crystal clear. Every time I had tried to hide my frantic excitement in front of Justin, I had casually accepted a gift from the hand of a boy standing next to him. He stood by Justin's side, with a similar face, but the look in his eyes was different from Justin's polite gaze. It was more like mine. Except my eyes were on Justin, and his were on me. It was a fiery, unguarded look. I suddenly remembered what a crew member who had visited me in the hospital had told me. After I crashed into the eaves, my heart had briefly stopped. The ambulance hadn't arrived yet, and we couldn't find a defibrillator. The whole crew was panicking, but Oscar immediately knelt beside you and just started doing CPR, his face completely blank. Man, it scared me to death. I'd never seen him look like that. Later, your heartbeat came back, and the ambulance arrived right after. I was so impressed with him. I was about to go praise him for being so calm and quick thinking. But when I turned around, he was just slumped on the ground, and I think his eyes were a little red. After they got you on the stretcher, they asked if he wanted to ride with you to the hospital. He just waved them off and told them to go. I found out later it was because his legs had gone so weak he couldn't even stand up. Isn't that weird? 1 second he's calmly giving you emergency aid, and the next he's scared like that. Everything suddenly made sense. The clouds that had been obscuring the moon finally drifted away on this night, surrounded by a mountain of gifts. At 26 years old, I finally realized that in the long decade plus when I had made Justin the hero of my own story, I had been the leading man in someone else's. You stand on a bridge and watch the scenery, while the person watching the scenery stands on the bridge and watches you. The moon adorns your window, while you adorn someone else's dream. The next morning, my doorbell rang early. I had gotten home late and reluctantly dragged myself out of bed to answer it. The moment I opened the door, Oscar walked in with a big bag of steamed buns and soy milk. He confidently strode to my dining table and started laying out breakfast. "Come and eat. Hot breakfast." I rubbed my eyes and walked over. "You were so drunk last night. How are you up so early?" "You underestimate my constitution," Oscar said proudly. After I finished washing up, Oscar had already set the table and was waiting for me. I sat down and picked up a soup dumpling. "What made you suddenly decide to have breakfast with me?" "I made you run around all night, so I came to express my gratitude." "People don't usually show up empty-handed to express gratitude," I teased. "Breakfast is my gift. It might not be expensive, but it's thoughtful." I smiled and focused on eating the thoughtful breakfast. The room was quiet for a moment before Oscar spoke again. Tentatively. "Matthew, did you go into my bedroom last night?" "I did." "Oh, what? Is your room off limits or something?" "No, not at all. You're welcome anytime," Oscar said distractedly. After a moment, he spoke again. "Did you see anything? What are you trying to say?" I looked up and met his eyes, seeing the nervousness there. "Never mind, it's nothing. If you're asking about the things on your nightstand, I saw them." Clack. The soup dumpling on Oscar's chopsticks fell into his soy milk, splashing onto his shirt. I watched him frantically grab a napkin to clean it up, a smile tugging at my lips. By the time he looked up, I had wiped the expression from my face. "You like me?" I said. Oscar admitted it without hesitation. "When did it start?" Oscar smiled. "A long time ago. You wouldn't believe it if I told you. It was at your 6th birthday party at your house. The adults were talking, and I wanted to get a cupcake, but some older kids blocked me and wouldn't let me have one. Then you stepped up and said, 'This is all my food. If you won't let him eat, then you can't eat either.'" He chuckled as he told the story. "So childish, right? I believe you." "What?" I looked into Oscar's eyes and repeated myself seriously. "I believe you." I believed that love could sprout in the most innocent, ignorant years of childhood and span a lifetime. So the story is, I was a hero saving a damsel in distress, and you pledged your life to me. I laughed. "Yes and no. I saw you, a little omega, standing up to a group of alphas bigger than you, not scared at all. You were so small, with your head held high, looking so proud. I thought, if those jerks try to bully you, I'll fight them to the death." At that, we both burst out laughing. "You were pretty dramatic as a kid," I said. "You were no different." Later, I heard my mom joke that you were engaged to my brother. I was sad about that for a while. He paused, his tone a little wistful. "I just never thought that you two would actually get married. I was still abroad when I was suddenly called back to attend your wedding." My smile faded a little. My condition was urgent at the time. It was all very sudden. "Yeah. But things are different now. Can I pursue you?" I glanced at my phone, at the various photos of potential dates and their pheromone compatibility rates that my dad had sent me. I replied, "That's your business." Oscar looked ecstatic. He picked up his bowl of soy milk and clinked it against mine playfully. "Looks like I have a chance. Here's to your new beginning, and to my new opportunity." From the day I didn't explicitly reject Oscar, he acted as if he could already see the light of victory at the end of the tunnel. He launched an intense pursuit. Scheduled daily messages and the suddenly frequent ringing of my doorbell became a constant in my life. The traces of Justin seemed to be slowly fading from my life as well. He would contact me occasionally to ask about my health and to check if I needed his help. I always politely thanked him and declined his offer. Thinking back, our interactions had always been like this, distant, polite. But love can't be formulaic like social etiquette. Love is inherently subjective, mixed with all kinds of desires. Then one day, I opened my door and saw Justin leaning against the wall by the elevator. He was smoking. In all the years I'd known him, it was the first time I'd ever seen him smoke. He seemed surprised to see me, freezing for a moment before quickly stubbing out the cigarette in the ashtray by the elevator. We stood there, facing each other. The last time we had stood together at the door of this apartment felt like a lifetime ago. After a long silence, he spoke first. "Matthew, I need to talk to you." "Okay. It's been almost 4 months since we separated." He didn't look at me as he spoke, which was rare. Instead, he seemed to be studying the floor tiles. I knew he was nervous. I used to think that what we had was more of a partnership, but after this time, I think I might have misunderstood some feelings. He rarely spoke so hesitantly. I didn't rush him. I think people can misunderstand their own hearts, and the quality of a relationship isn't defined by its initial purpose. The process should be more important. Hearing this, I knew what he was trying to say. "So, you're telling me that you've suddenly realized you developed feelings for me during our 2-year marriage?" "Yes." He finally managed to lift his head and meet my gaze. "I know it's probably too late to say this now, and it might sound ridiculous. And I wanted to ask, are you still willing to go to Damascus with me?" It was a veiled question, but I understood. "Or would you be willing to let me pursue you again until you're willing to go with me?" He wanted to fill in the missing steps from before our marriage, hoping to change the outcome of the story. But just as he still believed that our marriage, the one I had waited more than a decade for, was just a simple partnership at its core, we had never been on the same page. And he didn't even know where the story had really begun. "But Oscar knows," the thought popped into my head out of nowhere. "There's no need, Justin. Let's both just move forward. Dwelling on this isn't cool." "It's not like you," I said with a smile. He opened his mouth to say something else. I cut him off. "Actually, you still have some things here. You can take them with you now." I turned, went inside, and brought the box that was sitting by the door out to him. Justin looked at the box and gave a bitter smile. "You already packed it all up?" "Yeah." He held the box and stepped into the elevator. The moment the doors closed, I thought I saw the corners of his eyes turn red. Springtime was released and Oscar and I went to the premiere. Just before the movie started, my damn pheromone dependency decided to act up at the worst possible time. My hands trembled as I frantically rummaged through my bag on the bathroom counter, finally pulling out an empty medicine bottle. I stared at the light, empty bottle, a vein throbbing in my temple. For the first time in my life, I wanted to let out a string of curses. "Matthew, you look terrible. Are you not feeling well?" Oscar's voice came from behind me. He came closer, lifting my bangs. "You're sweating so much. Are your pheromones acting up? Did you take your medicine?" It was too late. The premiere was starting in less than 20 minutes. I looked at Oscar's worried face, gritted my teeth, and pulled him into one of the Omega bathroom stalls. 2 grown men crammed into a tiny stall. I could feel his breath on my ear. I looked at his eyes, wide with shock, and exposed the back of my neck to his lips. "Mark me." "What?" Oscar's voice trembled. "Didn't you want to soothe me? Now mark me." "I can't. We don't even know our compatibility rate. Could hurt you. Maybe I should just take you to the hospital." Oscar, who was usually so bold and loved to tease me, was suddenly hesitant at the crucial moment. "I know what I'm doing. It'll be fine. Hurry up." Oscar's breathing was erratic. He hesitantly lowered his head and took my gland between his lips. I could feel the tremor of his teeth against my skin, making me suck in a sharp breath. "Just bite down," I urged, my voice dry. When the marking was finally over, the highly compatible alpha pheromones flooded my system, and the screaming cells in my body gradually calmed down. I leaned against the stall door, covered in a cold sweat, closing my eyes to even out my breathing. The next second, I was pulled into a warm embrace. Oscar released a rich, calming stream of pheromones, his large hand stroking my back. I opened my eyes in surprise, my chin resting on his shoulder. I realized this was the aftercare that was supposed to follow a marking. I had just never experienced it before. Neither of us spoke. After a few minutes, I felt my strength returning, But Oscar didn't let go. How did you know we were highly compatible? He asked, his voice a lazy, soothing whisper in my ear. Because you've soothed me before. It worked better than Justin's, I said hesitantly. Really? Our compatibility is higher than mine and my brother's. Oscar's voice was full of surprised delight. Hearing his childish reaction, I couldn't help but smile. Maybe. He hugged me tighter. So, can I be considered your boyfriend now? You can be an intern. There's a trial period. Thank you, boss. I'll cherish this opportunity and work hard to become a full-time employee, Oscar said, rubbing his cheek against the top of my head. By the time the premiere started, we were both impeccably dressed again. No one could tell there was a fresh bite mark hidden under the pheromone patch on my neck. After the movie, the cast and creative team went on stage. As my eyes scanned the audience, I suddenly met a familiar pair of eyes. Justin and I locked gazes for a second before I calmly looked away. After some speeches and games, the screen played the behind-the-scenes video of us making jewelry. 80, 80, 80. Oscar's voice rang out, and the entire theater burst into laughter. I glanced at Justin. He was staring at the screen, not laughing. I'm giving it to my unattainable love, Mr. Matthew Shaw. When the video got to the gift-giving part, the theater erupted in cheers. Justin's face was hidden in the shadows of the audience, his expression unreadable. The video ended, and it was time for the QA session. A young girl stood up. In the movie, Oscar's character is deeply in love with Matthew's character. But in the video, when Oscar mentioned his unattainable love, he didn't specify the character's name. He said Matthew. Was that a slip of the tongue, or was there a deeper meaning? The question caused an uproar. The female host had a mischievous look on her face. Wow, what a sharp question. Should our Oscar answer, wait, I think I've discovered a huge secret. What is it? Tell us. The male host said excitedly. Oh, I don't know if I should say, the female host said with a knowing smile. Soon, people in the audience followed her gaze and discovered it. I was wearing the pendant Oscar had made, and Oscar was wearing the ring I had claimed to be making for myself on his right index finger. A stir went through the crowd. I could even hear someone in the front row whisper excitedly, "Oh my God! Oh my God! Did I just stumble upon a real-life ship?" I broke out in a cold sweat. Neither of us knew the director was going to play that video. Just as I was frantically trying to think of a way to salvage the situation, Oscar's smiling voice came from beside me. That question is no comment, but I can let you all in on a little secret. I'm currently on the path to happiness, and I can already see the light of victory. Well, so much for saving the situation. That kid had just sold himself out completely. On the way home, I said to Oscar a little helplessly, "Don't you know that for a new celebrity, dating is career suicide? You've only just debuted, and you've already blocked off half of your future path." Oscar seemed completely unaware of the seriousness of the situation. He grinned, leaned over, and planted a quick kiss on my cheek before retreating just as I was about to scold him. In life, you can only walk one path in the end. It doesn't matter how many other paths there are if they don't lead to the destination my heart wants. I was about to lecture him that you can never have too many paths. Then I heard his beautiful voice, firm and peaceful, flowing into my ear. And if there's a path that ends with you by my side, then no matter how hard it is to walk, I'll take it. Boom! In an instant, a grand fireworks display exploded in my mind, painting the sky with brilliant colors. All reason and restraint surrendered. Unlike his naturally flirtatious eyes, Oscar preferred to express his love through actions and playful jokes rather than sweet nothings. So when he looked directly into my eyes and spoke each word with a certainty that no one could doubt, it hit with incredible force. The car entered a tunnel, and we were plunged into darkness. I felt his breath, tinged with the fresh scent of herbs, draw closer. A cool touch, incredibly restrained, met my lips. He didn't move further, just a light touch before pulling back slightly. "I love you, Matthew. I love you," he said, his voice a little hoarse. He had waited nearly 20 years for this moment. Thinking that, I wrapped my arms around his neck. "Attention, Oscar Price. You're officially promoted." With that, I leaned in and kissed him. With all my strength, without holding anything back, a deep kiss. The car emerged from the tunnel and, at the fork in the road ahead, turned onto a path we had never taken before. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the leaves of the tall elm trees, scattering shimmering stars all over us. In ancient texts, Bayou White Elm meant star. And now Matthew was still a star, the star that Oscar had gazed at for more than a decade before daring to gently touch. The kiss lasted for a long, long time. We had both spent too much time on this road. But thankfully, on this intoxicating autumn afternoon, we had finally reached the crossroads where our destinies converged. The end of the road glowed with a dazzling white light. I suddenly remembered Oscar's playful words in the car half a year ago. Once you get past this, your life will be smooth sailing.